So what do we need to make a pro Android flagship in 2025? IP rating, USB Gen 3.2, an AMOLED display with Dolby Vision, a fast charging silicon carbide battery, fast wireless charging, OS with 4+ years of software updates, a triple camera setup with a periscope camera, and of course the latest Snapdragon 8 Elite SoC. So pray tell me, why is this phone not called the OnePlus 13 Pro? Anyway, pro or no pro, this phone is definitely a huge upgrade over its predecessor, the OnePlus 12. But the question in your minds would definitely be, should you save some money and buy the iQOO 13 instead? Well, I have you covered. Stay tuned till the end of the video. If you're here for the first time, I'm Ashad. You're watching Trakin Tech English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. I like the upgraded design on the OnePlus 13. We've got the Midnight Ocean color variant, which basically has a microfiber vegan leather texture. So the in-hand feel is very nice. It feels very premium for sure. But there's definitely one problem, and that is the phone does feel slippery. And not just in this vegan leather variant, I tried out the black glass variant as well, and that feels slippery too. But like I mentioned in the video where I talked about the OnePlus 13 and compared it to the OnePlus 12, if you haven't watched that yet, a link should pop up right now, go check it out. In that video also, I clearly said that the OnePlus 13 is definitely thinner and lighter despite packing a larger battery inside the phone, which is fantastic. Plus, the IP rating has been upgraded from IP65 to IP68 plus 69 now. That's not it, you also get a proper USB Type-C 3.2 Gen 1 port, and you've got an infrared blaster as well on the phone. Now, these are features that are all available on the iQOO 13 as well, except for the alert slider on the OnePlus 13. And you know what? I'm completely against Carl Pei's take where he says that the alert slider might not be as useful as people think it is. Well, I find it very useful. Now, which team are you on? Team alert slider or team glyph lighting? Talking about lighting, the iQOO 13's design is not a stark departure from the iQOO 12. It looks very similar to the iQOO 12, except for the fact that the camera module now has RGB around it, so it lights up and there are notifications. It's actually nicely done. It's a nice little character personality that's been added to the iQOO 13. So in terms of design changes, the OnePlus 13 definitely tries harder compared to the iQOO 13, which plays slightly more safe. Now, by now you must have understood that I do like the design of the OnePlus 13, but I see a lot of comments which suggest that you guys are not really a fan of it for some reason, and that's understandable if you're taking a look at, videos or photos. But I would suggest and urge you to actually go to a physical store and check this out in real. Your perception might change. I would like to add a special mention to the official cases that you now get with the OnePlus 13. They're pretty good, but most importantly, I like this aramid case. It is damn nice, yeah. It does add a lot of bulk, but there's a reason for it. Stay tuned till the end of the video. You'll definitely get your answer why. Now, if you look at the display specs of both these phones, they're nearly identical. You can pause the screen right now and take a look at it. But there are three key differences that you must know about. Firstly, iQOO has 144Hz refresh rate, not when you're using the system UI, but when you're playing games. Secondly, OnePlus has a micro quad curve panel compared to iQOO's completely flat one. And finally, iQOO comes with short sensation alpha protection, and OnePlus has its own ceramic guard, which it says is definitely, more scratch resistant and drop resistant. Again, something that we can't test out in real life, but we can just do this. And I think it's fine. Now, talking about the display brightness and HDR support, you get HDR10 Plus on iQOO, whereas you get Dolby Vision support on OnePlus, and Netflix is also supported. Now, when I tested out HDR video playback on YouTube, I did notice that iQOO has a tendency to make the colors look a little more saturated compared to OnePlus, and there is no way to change this as such. But this problem doesn't exist in HDR videos per se. But when you look at the HDR tuning of both the displays, they are actually really good. You get really good control over the highlights and very good details from the shadows as well. And technically, the HBM brightness is slightly higher on iQOO. It's 1800 compared to 1600 on OnePlus, but you can't really tell the difference when you take them outdoors and view them under direct sunlight. By the way, haptic feedback, like I mentioned, on the iQOO 13 was fantastic, but so is the haptic feedback on the OnePlus 13. I really can't pick one winner, and I can also not pick a winner when it comes to in-display fingerprint scanner because both come with ultrasonic in-display fingerprint scanners. But I can definitely pick a winner when it comes to the quality of the speakers on both these phones because OnePlus does it better. It has this holo audio feature which adds a little bit of spatial depth to the audio itself, so the voices of people comes out slightly more clearly, and there's a little bit more bass and depth to the whole sound itself. Anyway, take a listen to it for yourself and let me know what you guys think.
Fell in love, not knowing what it was. Fell in love, not knowing what it was.
Now for the audiophiles in the house, we tested both these phones support all the high-res codecs that you can think of: LHDC, LDAC, aptX, LL, all of that possible. Alright, now it's time to talk about the performance on both these phones. The specs are very similar, but the iQOO 13 is definitely tuned better than the OnePlus 13. So in synthetic benchmarks like AnTuTu and Geekbench, iQOO 13 beats the OnePlus 13. Even in our CPU throttle test where we engage 40 threads for 30 minutes in the performance mode, the OnePlus 13 throttles a lot. Just take a look at the CPU stability score in comparison to the iQOO 13. But in the default mode, you will notice that OnePlus 13's CPU stability score is higher. However, there's a catch. Take a look at the average chip score, and OnePlus is throttling the CPU performance a lot to ensure that you get better stability, which is not the case with the iQOO 13. It doesn't throttle as much, which means that the CPU stability is definitely better on the iQOO 13. Thankfully though, on the OnePlus 13, the GPU is not throttled as much, which is pretty evident from the 3D Mark Wireless test stability score that we got. Now games like BGMI and Call of Duty run absolutely fine. You can play them at 120 FPS on both the phones. But for our real world test, we actually played Genshin Impact for 30 minutes at highest graphics and 60 frames per second, and we got an average of 60.2 frames per second. These phones don't break a sweat. In fact, the score is the same on both. Talking about not breaking a sweat, these phones didn't cross 40 degrees either. I think we have to upgrade from Genshin Impact because it doesn't seem to be stressing out the Snapdragon 8 Elite at all. However, one thing to note here is that the iQOO 13 ran cooler than the OnePlus 13. This despite the fact that the iQOO 13 has a smaller vapor cooling chamber of 7000mm² compared to the nearly 10,000mm² on the OnePlus 13. This time OnePlus's game mode also has game frame interpolation, which is something that I was excited to test out, but for some reason it is not available on Genshin Impact right now. Maybe it'll come with an update later. iQOO 13 and GT7 Pro's game frame interpolation do offer, higher frame rates. So overall, from my testing, I can clearly tell you that if you are a gamer, then it would make sense to go with the iQOO 13 because you'll get better sustained performance, better peak performance compared to the OnePlus 13. However, the difference between the performance is marginal this time around, so much so that the OnePlus 13 users are not going to find it like too much of a problem anyway. And if you're somebody who doesn't want that kind of a headroom in performance, then the OnePlus 13 actually performs way better in daily life, primarily because of the smooth animations that you get with Oxygen OS 15. More about that really soon. Alright, now it's time to talk about the batteries inside these phones, and they've got the newer technology in them, which is basically silicon carbide, which is nice because you get a nice and large 6000 mAh battery. They're dense batteries, therefore they don't make the phone fat. And the battery life has been pretty good. On heavy usage, you can expect around 7 hours of screen on time, and on moderate usage, you can expect around 8 hours from both the phones. Having said that, both these phones are definitely not my battery champions. It is the Vivo X200 Pro. Now, charging time is faster on the iQOO 13 primarily because you get a faster 120-watt charger, so it charges from 0 to 100 in about 30 minutes, and the bundled 100-watt charger takes about 37 minutes for a full charge of the OnePlus 13. But OnePlus definitely has one ace up its sleeve, and that's the fact that it supports 50-watt wireless charging, and that's where I would like to bring back the Aramid case. And why it actually makes the phone bulky? Because it's got a magnet to it, and it can do the MagSafe thing that the iPhone can. But of course, you need to buy the case to get this charger. Now, with this charger, I managed to charge the phone from 0 to 100 in about 1 hour and 23 minutes. Of course, it's long, but it's wireless charging, so it slows down after a while. Also, the charger itself has like a cooling, fan inside, but that's for the charger and not for the device. Now, talking about the network, both these phones are equipped with nearly all the 5G bands that you would need. You've got Wi-Fi 7, you've got Bluetooth 5.4, NFC, everything, and the 5G connectivity was fantastic on both. I have no complaints per se. Oh, by the way, there's one new interesting feature on OnePlus 13, and that's called Beacon Link. Essentially, it's like a walkie-talkie, and it uses Bluetooth to connect between two OnePlus or Oppo devices in a 200-meter range, so you can talk to the other person. Now, I find this kind of pointless, honestly, but some people might find it useful. Also, in an OT update later, Beacon Link is going to get chat support as well. Maybe it could be useful for some folks, I don't know. Alright, so OnePlus 13 is running on Oxygen OS 15 based on Android 15, where iQOO is running on FunTouch OS 15 based on Android 15. So OnePlus promises 4 plus 6 years of updates, where iQOO promises 4 plus 5 years, which is basically nearly identical, not too much of a difference. But what's not identical is the experience of using the software on both these phones. At least in my opinion, Oxygen OS 15 is better than FunTouch OS 15. Now, if you want to know why, I have detailed explainers on both Oxygen OS 15 and FunTouch OS 15. Links should pop up right now, go check it out. But if you want a gist list? Well, Oxygen OS 15 definitely has faster, smoother animations thanks to the new render engine. You also get way more AI features and many are actually useful. I really like the AI reflection eraser feature the most. You also get live activities with multiple card stacking, which is legit useful and better than iOS. There are more AOD and customization options aplenty that run circles around FrontTouch OS 15. Well, the list is actually kind of long, so I'll stop here. Just go watch those videos. You will get a fair idea. Alright, now finally it's time to talk about the cameras on both these phones. I'm not going into the detailed specs, you can see that on your screen right now, but the one thing to note is that OnePlus has a better telephoto camera compared to iQOO. Now generally I would show you the comparison samples immediately, but just take a look at these samples that I shared from the OnePlus 13 on Twitter. Now, from this you can see, in isolation, when you use the OnePlus 13, people are going to actually like the cameras on this phone. It's definitely more dependable, reliable compared to the OnePlus 12. It's definitely a huge upgrade. But we are here for the comparison. Let's do that. So, the primary camera definitely captures more details thanks to the slightly larger sensor on OnePlus. HDR performance is largely similar except for the fact that OnePlus 13 has a slightly more contrasty look where the shadows are darkened. Plus, one thing I noticed is that it captures ultra HDR photos, so it has more brightness information for sure. And you can immediately tell this when you're taking a look at these pictures captured by the OnePlus 13 and the iQOO 13 on a display that supports Pro XDR like something like the Apple MacBook Pro. It looks immediately very attractive, let me tell you that. Now, if you want to see the brightness information for yourself and if you have a proper compatible display, then I have links to images in the description, go check it out. By the way, OnePlus's new algorithm also favors boosted colors and punchy images, very contrasty images that look immediately attractive. But if you ask me, the iQOO 13 definitely takes more closer to life colors compared to OnePlus 13, especially in the natural mode. And the good thing about the iQOO 13 is that if you want a vivid color profile, you can do that too. Shouldn't be a problem. One interesting new addition in the OnePlus 13's camera is dual exposure. Essentially, it takes one long exposure and one short exposure every single time you hit the shutter. It's running by default, which means that if you're capturing moving objects, they're always in tack sharp focus. And when you take a look at these images side by side, you can tell for sure that it is definitely better than the iQOO 13. But there is a side effect to this. If you're actually shooting moving subjects in a high dynamic range scenario, then it overprocesses the images and crushes the shadows so much that the blacks look very, very bad. Now, skin tone rendition with the primary camera is more true to life on the iQOO 13, but OnePlus 13 comes very, very close. It's just slightly boosted. But when you're shooting people against the light, iQOO tends to brighten the face where OnePlus keeps things natural. Now, the bloom in OnePlus photos are still present in extreme dynamic range scenes like this one, but you know what? You should really avoid taking pictures in such scenarios. Just find the right light. Now, portrait at 1x is nearly identical in terms of edge cutout and bokeh drop off on both, but OnePlus has that slight edge here because it captures the right color of the skin where iQOO tends to brighten it. At 2x, iQOO captures sharper textures in portrait for sure, but the 3x portrait on the OnePlus is what is technically better compared to the 4x in-sensor crop on iQOO. Overall, it's a tie when you look at the portrait mode. Now, in low light, both the phones do a good job of capturing the scene with a good amount of exposure, but iQOO's algorithm captures sharper textures and doesn't soften out the details in the shadows like OnePlus does. But I'm still glad that OnePlus's algorithm doesn't crush the shadows in low light as much as it used to do with the OnePlus 12. In fact, even with the OnePlus 11 and the OnePlus 10. And you know what? In certain evening scenarios, I actually like the OnePlus 13's rendition of the scene compared to iQOO 13 because it's immediately attractive with the HDR performance. Ultrawide on the OnePlus 13 is clearly the superior one, truth be told. You get sharper images in daylight and low light both. iQOO 13's ultrawide shots are softer in low light. It's really no match for the OnePlus 13. And it goes without saying that the zoom performance on the OnePlus 13 is definitely better than the iQOO 13. By the way, the OnePlus 13's periscope has the same tetraprism technology used in the Oppo Find X8 series as well. And the problem with this is of course the fact that you do not have close focusing distance ranges, so macro shots don't look as impressive. But when it comes to zoom, it's definitely better than the iQOO 13. See, at 2x, the iQOO 13 is better than OnePlus 13 because it's got a dedicated camera. But at 3x, 4x, 6x, 10x, and 30x, clearly OnePlus is better than iQOO. And if you're wondering how the OnePlus 13 is capturing such good looking images beyond 10x, 20x and 30x, well, AI telephoto. Yeah, it has the same feature that is there on Oppo phones once again, where it does AI upscaling of images past 10x. Now, talking about selfies, OnePlus's wider field of view definitely comes in handy. Texture and detail wise, both are equally matched, but OnePlus's brighter exposure makes it look attractive. Selfie portraits look good on both though. However, in low light selfies, there's a slight bit of added contrast in OnePlus 13 that adds some punch to images images, which I kind of like. Now finally, when it comes to video recording, OnePlus definitely has an advantage because you can shoot 4K 60 FPS Dolby Vision videos using all the cameras in the stack. Yes, including the selfie camera. But first, let's take a look at the SDR video comparison with the primary camera, where the OnePlus has higher bitrate and better autofocus as well. Now in the Dolby Vision video capture, you can get even higher bitrate, a gorgeous natural bokeh, and one thing we notice is that there's no focus hunting like we saw on the iQOO 13. In fact, in HDR scenes, there's a little bit of artificial sharpening happening in videos captured by the iQOO 13. OnePlus 13 looks much more natural. I really like it. And when you compare the ultra-wide-angle cameras, well, again, OnePlus 13 is better. And when you compare the telephoto or the periscope cameras video recording capabilities, again, the OnePlus 13 is better. And if you're wondering about low light, yeah, the OnePlus 13 is better. So overall, if you look at it, the OnePlus 13 actually has a better camera experience than the iQOO 13 this year. So the OnePlus 13 is greater than the OnePlus 12. Simple math. It offers way more value at a similar price point, and the upgrades definitely make the phone worth the money. So much so that I feel like even a OnePlus 12 user might be tempted to switch to the OnePlus 13. It's actually that much of an upgrade. Now compared to the iQOO 13, where the iQOO 13 has a clear advantage is definitely in the better tuned performance and the lower price tag, which will matter to a lot of folks. Having said that, the OnePlus 13 offers a better software experience. It offers premium features like wireless charging, and even the camera performance seems to be better this year. So it feels like it's a pro phone competing against a non-pro one, truth be told. So those are my thoughts on the OnePlus 13 and my comparison against the iQOO 13. So you can get a fair sense of what you can expect from both these actually really great phones. Oh, by the way, one thing I completely forgot to tell you guys is the Project Starlight. Basically, OnePlus is saying that it will give you a lifetime free green line warranty on this phone. So if you get a green line on this, no questions asked, display replaced. This should definitely give a lot of OnePlus potential buyers peace of mind. And with that, I think I'm done with my review. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.